Hello, everyone, and welcome back to this episode of In Lay Terms. Today, I have our very own PPC candidate, Mr. René de Vries. How are you doing?
Good morning, Payman. I'm doing great. So I hope you're doing well too, and thank you for inviting me.
No, thank you for coming on. René, you look fresh, you look relaxed, and most importantly, you look tanned. Where are you?
Yeah, I'm down south in Costa Rica. If I can, I like to go here in the winter months if possible. I can work here too. So look, we are talking. The internet works, the Wi-Fi works. So yeah, I'm pretty relaxed here. I can work. Although at the moment I'm a little on edge. I'm doing a water fast, which I've already not eaten for 2 days and trying to regenerate my immune system. I'll be pretty. Hopefully, I won't be too aggressive sometimes, but just in case, I might develop a bit of an acute sort of expression. That's where it comes from. I might be a bit hungry here. I'm just drinking water at the moment, so.
All right, well, I'll try not to ask you any controversial questions that might get you angry.
Right. Well, yeah, you're welcome to. No, that was just a joke, of course. But yeah, be happy to talk about everything. That's great. I'll contain my exuberance.
Why don't we start with let the audience know a little about you.
Great. Well, thank you for that opportunity. I'm almost 60, actually. I've had a great career in Canada. I came to Canada as a young man of 23 with an engineering degree from the Netherlands. And I had a Canadian dream of building a company in engineering, environmental engineering, and I lived that dream. I'm very happy and feel happy about my accomplishments. At the moment, I'm still working for a large global engineering firm. We do the largest infrastructure projects in Canada, including, the one in your. We're bidding on projects like the tunnel that they're trying to expand there in your neck of the woods. Name escapes me now, but we're doing large infrastructure projects and using environment as a entry point, which has been my specialty for 35 years. Obviously, over the last 35 years, that became very important, and I have built up a good expertise in that great business network, and I'm quite happy being able to do that. But now, I always had the ambition to get involved in politics. In fact, over the years, I've had different engagement. My biggest accomplishment there, I guess, it's always about building networks and getting to know people and building relationships and or learning from senior statesmen. I've met a number of them also through my work. Mikhail Gorbachev, that was probably my highlight of people that I met. I met him twice in Switzerland through my work related to environmental issues. He after he stopped being the general secretary of the Russian Federation, or at that point it was still the Soviet Union, I think, he went into environmental issues. Now he's also been, I think he's also on the list of globalists that have been under heavy criticism for trying to implement globalist environmental policy. So I've seen it from both sides of the sticks, and having worked in this business, I can see the arguments quite well. Wanting to do something. Actually, the reason why I engaged in politics and also became a candidate in 21 for the PPC is because I was worried about my kids and my grandkids, how Canada was developing and how the Canadian dream that I was able to live would be slipping away on them. I don't know if you saw Tucker Carlson's report from Moscow just 2 days ago, where he talks about he was actually super angry for realizing that, wow, this cost of living issue is definitely a self-inflicted wound by the Western elites, and it makes planning for a good future almost impossible, and it can lead to degeneration that we fought against 30 years ago in the Soviet Union. the whole script has been flipped. Now we're in the West. We're under soft dictatorship of the neoliberal elites that tell us how to eat, how to live, and how to do things, and make our lives unaffordable in the meantime. And I think that I was a big participant also of the Freedom Convoy in 21 and 22. Combination and the whole discussion about the great reset, that's really activated me, and I feel I'm joined there by many others, including yourself. So I'm very encouraged by that. So we'll see where it goes, but I think if the honest motivations that we all have for and the care and concern for the future of our kids and grandkids, and we can bind together to build a better Canada for the future, I think that's a winner, and hopefully that will change the corruption that we see currently in government. So.
Forgive me if you already answered this. This is a three-part question. How many years have you been in Canada? How have you seen Canada's changed during that time? And did you, bearing that in mind, did you ever consider running for the Conservative Party instead, since it's much easier?
I've been in 37 years in Canada. I'm almost 40 now. I was 23 when I came here. So how have I seen? Well, partially seeing things change is maybe because you get older yourself. You see more the things that are wrong. When you're young, you like to focus on the good things. Maybe that's why when I was young, I was definitely more on the liberal side of things, a libertarian you can call it, or liberal. As you get older, you become more, I would say, automatically conservative. I think it was Winston Churchill that came up with that saying, right? That you don't have a heart if you're not liberal when you're young, and you don't have a brain when you're not conservative when you're old. So the natural progression is normal there, and it has something to do possibly with responsibilities for the kids and grandkids, where your outlook changes because you start to worry about them, and the idealism that you have when you're young, now suddenly you realize, well, the situation has changed completely. The young kids can't afford a house anymore. They can't buy a house. When I was young, even as an immigrant, I had a bit of help, but with a down payment on the house, $165,000, I remember, in Toronto, we bought our first house, and this was our entrance into the real estate market. Well, at the moment, below $1 million, you can't find anything in Toronto pretty much, unless you go into a condominium, which might be a good way to start. But that Canadian dream that always was there, building your own house, building your own family, it's become potentially out of reach for many young people, and the pressure that it puts on people is very unhealthy, leads to all sorts of social problems as well. And so this is one. Sorry, I forgot the second part of your question.
The last part was, did you ever consider just running for the Conservative Party?
For the Conservative, no, and mainly, well, Randy Hillier actually put the final nail in the coffin on that thought, but I already didn't really like the Conservatives that I ran into in my riding. Paul Calandra was one of them. I thought they were always, on the bandwagon of the neocon warmongers. There wasn't a war that they didn't like, and that was something that I was always very against. And then learning about the depth of corruption through Randy and Maxime in the Conservative Party, no, I can't really handle that, right? Like a Murtaugh level, mafia style type corruption. In that sense, we see it played out now with liberals who have their own mafia style of corruption, and that needs to go. This Arrive scam situation is just now hot to trot. It's just atrocious, and this is one scandal after the next, and this is how our money is being wasted. It also degenerates people's beliefs in government, in good government, and in prudent management of our finances. It's horrendous. So, in short, no, because of I didn't see, and I guess instinctively I was already sort of feeling, well, liberals or conservatives as parties and as entities, they just looked after themselves. and it really, the policies don't matter, that are not that much different. Yeah, they make a big deal about it as if they differ a lot, but really they don't. So then it comes down to a popularity contest between Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre. And is that what politics has degenerated to? It's atrocious. If the Conservatives can't even have a platform at the moment, it's ridiculous. Now, for that reason, if we enter this discussion with the right motives and with a clean sort of, okay, well, we're in it to clean things up and to make things better for our kids, I think that we can attract voters from all sides that are fed up with the system, because everybody sees the same corruption and degeneration and of unaffordability crisis, as it's called, I guess. So, yeah.
So I'm going to start asking you the hard questions, and then we can go back to the simple
I like
stuff.
that. Yeah. I got direct hard questions.
Yeah. Let's because this is probably what people, critics of the PPC, want me to ask you anyway.
Yeah.
For me, it's frustrating. Like, I look at what's going on with ArriveCAN and all of these ethics violations, and it's clear as day. People should be supporting the PPC, but they're not. And the number one. One of the main arguments leveled against the PPC is you're splitting the vote. How do you counter that, or how do you rationalize that?
Well, first of all, that's only something that the Conservatives say, which is a self-serving argument, because they don't want to be taking principled positions, and therefore that's the easiest way to sort of try to shoo us away. I like to look at this as actually Maxime spells it out. I believe in his long-term perspective on this, and I have a lot of admiration for him that he broke away from the corruption and said we need to make a stand here for our kids and grandkids. And this is not going to be an easy fight, as he already. When he lost his by-election in Portage Lisgar, I felt his pain in his speech. It's not easy. We would have all happily seen a win there, and not winning the seat is partially because of the first past the post system in Canada, which is massively rigged towards the two establishment parties, or the four that we have right now. For new entrants to make a mark, as we saw with the Green Party. The Green Party took them 27 years to actually get a seat. However, as Maxime also points out, in the meantime, all the establishment parties embraced the green policies of the Green Party. And I think for us, it's not just about having a seat. It's also about engaging, about civil discourse, about community building, about having the intelligent conversations that others are refusing to have, or exposing. It's actually a lot of fun, don't you think, to just expose all that corruption and just say, well, are you actually supporting this? It's making this, in a way, that role. Yes, we are already the official opposition, and the bigger we get, and the more power we get with that, the more influence we will get as well. And that doesn't necessarily mean we need to have a seat. And I think, I mentioned that in our pre-discussion. If we look back at other systems, political systems, and I'm from the Netherlands, so I have a good knowledge there. They have proportional representation there. They have 15 parties in parliament. It's a cacophony of discussion. Very interesting. Well, for about 20 years, they already have 4 parties in parliament that are PPC-like, kind of populist. But that group has not taken power yet, but they slowly are gaining influence. In the last election in November, after the truckers' protests in Europe, and the truckers' protests specifically in the Netherlands, that's now bubbling to the surface of Parliament, and those parties are starting to talk about that, and there's a shift there in power, and so I think we need to see politics as a glacier moving. It's not something that can move abruptly, and maybe done on purpose by the establishment powers, you could say, that they rigged it that way, or maybe done on purpose not to create revolution and or super inefficient policies that go back and forth and accomplish nothing. So I would say there's a two-part thing that I wanted to get to, but that's for a vote splitting thing. is a boondoggle that the conservatives use, in my opinion, to because they don't want to debate the arguments, the positions, because they know they will lose it. And secondly, we are appealing to the almost 11 million voters in the 21 election. There were 11 million voters that didn't show up, okay, in the election. They're so disgusted with the whole thing, or with the parties, called it the black-pilled voters. I try to engage them, sometimes not with much success. René, you just try to be another corrupt politician. Get out of here. This is nonsense, and the system is not going to fix itself. I said, listen, the system is us. What else do you want? If we can come up with something that works, then nothing will work. So what do you want? Revolution? You want war? Is that it? No, we don't want that either. Okay, so let's try to work something out that we can all agree on. And this is the system we have. I'm in favor, and in fact, Max has spoken in favor of a number of serious reform issues. For example, he would be in favor of proportional representation, or he would also be in favor of getting the king out of Canada and changing the system that way. But those are long-term things. In the meantime, we engage. We engage with common sense and with policies that are beneficial to our kids and grandkids, and I'm happy with that. I don't think, I want to encourage you as well. We shouldn't get discouraged. The fact that we stepped up, I still have a full-time job otherwise, and you as well, and we do this for the common good and for our kids and for our grandkids. I think we should be proud of that, and we should celebrate that. And I think good things will come out of it if we appeal to every good individual that's out there, and there's a lot of good individuals out there, and make the honest argument that this is what we want, and for the right reason. And we're not going to get into a yelling match about identity politics, you this and you that. No, vaccinated, unvaccinated, out of here. Like, we're not interested in those divisions, because I come to the conclusion that's usually about divide and conquer. So my argument, I think our argument is clean, right? We're good people, we're good parents that want the best for our kids, and we're stepping in to show our huge discontent with the current situation and with the corruption that's going on. So let chips fall where they may as we move forward. If the establishment parties start to clean up their act, okay, we're already winning too. So, I don't see that as a loss. So.
You mentioned, as parents and kids, I know this is a provincial issue, but what's your view on the public education system and what, the capture by things like SOGI?
Yeah, this is atrocious. Ideologues, right? Ideologues trying to teach our kids the whole transgender agenda, under the guise of caring for kids. They're now mutilating them, and chemical castration or other things. When they're minors, they can't buy booze, they can't get a car license, but they can change their sex apparently. These things are atrocious. This is a total pendulum swung out of left field by the social justice warriors. I don't think they really realize what they're doing. And you've seen it with some of the people that transition at later life, that, they made that decision because they were emotional or unhappy at age 14, and now and then you feel regret after that. I think as the adults in the room, you do need to set parameters around that, and also policies around it, and encourage people to be who they want to be. Billboard Chris is actually he's from BC, right? He's a great advocate. He's just having the conversations of, okay, well, how can you say that a child is born in the wrong body? I think those are the discussions you want to have, and don't make it then about, well, you're anti-gay or you're no, that has nothing to do with it. It's about having policies that are supportive for kids, and that provide a good environment for kids to grow up. And if they decide to be gay at some point, and even if they decide to transition as an adult, Perfect. Okay. I also don't have an issue with that, but I think it's an issue of parental rights under Bill C4. The conservatives sided with the liberals on that, took away parental rights. I think that's atrocious, and government setting policies that let kids be kids, and I have a number of friends that say, "Oh yeah, when I was young, I also wanted to be a boy or a girl when they were the other sex." Well, that's great, Like we all have ideas sometimes. So that's just how it goes. Let's just grow up and see what happens. And then, yeah, that whole transgender, I would say. Now, if I get into my conspiratorial mode, you could say that's part of the larger. And if you look at the World Economic Forum discussions going on, they do this on purpose as a way of creating social disruption and under the guise of helping people. I think it's disingenuous, first of all, and how are you helping people when you're cutting off their genitals before they're adults? It makes no sense. Like now that's on purpose being a bit inflammatory, because usually that's not what happens. But I was happy to see, for example, that Pierre Poilievre now also is advocating the same way as Daniel Smith is saying no advocating or no approval of puberty blockers, for example, right? It's one of those things that you can do to irreversibly damage a child at before they're adults. So, anyways, yeah, I'm worried about that, just like any grandparent, I guess, or coming I don't even have grandkids yet, but I expect they will come at some point. The public school system right now. No, I was privileged enough. In the early years, I put my kids in private school, but in all the things that happened later years when when they went to public school, I was worried about it, and I thought that makes no sense. You need a strong family at that point to counter that kind of what is it? Propaganda. It's a propaganda for a particular position, and it's tied to social justice warriors to leftist policies, and it's almost like a political coup. You could call it like a cultural revolution of sorts. In fact, I don't know if I'm reading this book from Alex Jones here, The Great Awakening, and he makes those connections between what we're going through in North America right now to the Mao cultural revolution of the 1960s, where kids were set up against their parents. And well, maybe there are parallels. Who knows? No. I think it's good that we stand on guard for this. Also that we discuss this, and the fact that we're even discussing it now here, and many people are standing up. Billboard Chris Max talks about this all the time. I think that's a win, and because we see the Overton window changing, and then we put pressure on establishment politicians like Poilievre, who now feels okay. Well, I better change too. You saw the the million person march this summer, where we actually did away with all the divisions of other identity politics, bring people together as parents, and around this issue of a concern about the total overreach of the transgender policies and propaganda, and you can make progress there, even political progress. So, yeah. Anyways, that's a complicated answer to maybe simple question, but I do think it's a very important, with mass migration, transgender issues, and the debt. Those are three issues that economics, the latter, that we need to focus on, because those are big ones, and they influence the next generation, and we need to clean them up and keep the pressure on.
I want to switch over to immigration since you brought that up. I believe the numbers are 2022, we had 1.02 million total, and then 2023, we had 1.2 million. That includes land immigrants going for PR and students. The bulk is surprisingly students. What do you think? What's the driver? Like, what's the goal, the motivation to bring in that many people?
Well, partially, I would say economic, and there's the big debate about, well, maybe this is the neoliberal group, you see it in the United States too, bringing in its own voters for the future by bringing in so many people that if they are going to vote at some point, they will support the establishment parties. yeah, they create their own social security, pension security, I guess. They for the politicians that enacted these policies. I think it's atrocious. It just doesn't take into account common sense and common engineering, even, or accounting principles. So if you build, as we can in Canada, 200 to 250,000 houses per year, and you start adding 500,000 people to the situation, how's that going to work? And what is your policies? What are your policies related to that? Everybody's going to start living in a 200 square foot condominium. Is that what this is what the plan is, or how is that going to? So those are the discussions we need to have. And I think once you have these discussions, people will start to realize, yeah, maybe it's not so bad because we had a very good immigration system that was very much geared towards bringing in skillful people, entrepreneurs, wealth builders, and people that came here to live their dream, build a better future. We shouldn't be bringing in people that will need state help, because that seems to be a motivation here as well. Make people dependent on the state. Students will be, right? They might pay their own way, but they need help in different ways. They need this infrastructure for learning and housing and what have you. I think it's a power grab to some extent. And you see it even more in the United States with Biden letting in 7 million illegal immigrants by now. Here we're not there yet, but proportionally maybe we are out of kilter. I would like to see the debate in the House of Commons about how many houses are we creating, and what are the number of people that are coming in, and how is that going to work? And just to have a bit of common sense there, and not just because otherwise the House of Commons and the politicians have become chaos agents. Really, that's what it is. Always just throw a whole pile of more people to the situation, see what happens. Well, usually not too many good things happen. So we've seen it, right? Increasing crime, the unaffordability of houses. It's not a good path we're on. So that needs to be turned around.
I feel like it's a push and a pull. Like, yes, you're bringing in all these immigrants, and we're no longer bringing in immigrants that are entrepreneurs, like independent, individual-minded immigrants. But on the other side, our society is kind of crumbling too. Like, you have all of these monopolies or oligopolies. Everything's becoming regulated to death. So an independent contractor can't really function. An independent architect, they can't function. So,
true.
Do you get that sense that our society is being hollowed out, or am I off?
Well, yeah, we're on the path to what could you call that? Sovietization of Canada, where a crust of upper elite would like to control the entire pyramid and put a control grid in place that works for them but doesn't really work for everybody in the pyramid. So that, yeah, we're in that. Canada and United States historically were on the planet still the place where people go to because they had the freedom. They were judged on merit. They would not be slotted into some sort of social system or straitjacket that would not allow them to grow in the best possible way. And that's been eroding. I agree with you. And that comes in different forms. Who was talking about this? She works in my field. Jane Jacobs. She was an architect. She died, but before she died, she wrote this book, Dark Road Ahead, and she talked about all these issues, including credentialism in education, where now in order to do something, the establishment, what you could call corrupted parties that hold on to what they have. They make it so difficult for new entrants to come into the market because you need to have these particular credentials. Otherwise, you can't function in it. And, even though it's great to have standards for certain things, but to build, and she already pointed that out as well, and she saw it as part of a larger thing of degeneration of society. These things can be used as a tool to stifle growth, to stifle entrepreneurship. And when that is tied to this willful mindset of, well, people are actually a burden because they create pollution, and they shouldn't be driving their car. They shouldn't be, really ideally shouldn't be having kids. Yeah, if that mindset starts to mix with that, you get a dangerous situation, I think. And it's time. And in that sense, we are the purple wind of fresh air blowing through Canadian politics that we bring these issues to the fore. And because I think it will resonate once people can connect to it. So I would say, let's not at all get discouraged. We as long as we can blow this wind everywhere and start to get noticed in also the mainstream media, because I think that they are scared to even listen to Max on a platform. That's why they kept him out of the debates last time. I'm going to be really ticked off if they change the rules again so that they can keep him out of the debates this time. There comes a point that you say, well, this is, you guys, you know what you're doing. This is ridiculous. And at that point, you might have to demand your way in and just walk into the studio and say, okay, forget about your rules. You guys are not playing fair. So, yeah, that's... I don't know. There's going to be different things required. The truckers did it their way. There's going to, if they continue this control grid and the slowly smothering of the Canadian dream and of the future Canadian generations, something might break here or snap, or I don't know. We'll have to see how we manage that. It's not so easy.
It almost like it's a very, very slow motion war that's going on. There's no real casualties. Like, no one's being murdered, well, except for the institutions.
Well,
like I saw a news article
people
yesterday about
killing themselves now for with a government-assisted suicide just because they're not happy. They're not fulfilling their dream, right? So yeah.
Yeah, there is that. I remember in high school, that was like the worst thing, most controversial thing. They used to call it euthanasia. But then I woke up one morning and I'm like, well, what is this medically assistance in dying? And I don't know what's going to happen. Like, people aren't outraged to the degree I thought they would be.
Yeah, that's all our disappointment, I think. When are people going to actually see it and get outraged? I was very happy with the Freedom Convoy stepping up, and we had a number of people also from Stouffville that went there pretending to be truckers. And there's going to be other things that will come. If people don't, you see it now in Europe, all the protests, the farmers are just ferocious, the demonstrations. Who knows how that will express itself. But you're right, Canadians have been fairly passive and maybe happy and fat for too long, and they don't feel like they want to step up. That's also the whole approach that the conservative opposition has been taking, right? Like, instead of really being there questioning things, they were just how can we get this done fast enough, or like the whole shots and the mandates. They were not there fundamentally questioning anything. They were just lying back fat and happy, just okay, well, let's do this, and how can we do it a bit faster? It's beyond me too, as somebody who has learned to critically think from a young age. But maybe that's what's building now, right? That critical thinking and that resisting. We'll see how bad it is. Does it first have to get before people really step up? I don't know. We'll see.
I got a question for you. I've been thinking about this. Canada it's like transitioning from capitalism, some sort of free market, to a command economy. So like, they bring in immigrants and then they give them money. The government doesn't produce money. They can only tax their tax base. What's going to happen? God forbid this happens, but if we have a liberal government for the next 20 years, is Canada still going to be a country in 20 years, or is this going to be civil war?
The globalists, they want their new world order, and they don't mind if we're in this post-nationalist state, right? And that's a globalist mindset. It doesn't even recognize countries anymore. Or if you look actually back at the history of that, I don't know if you know that, but this thinking came out of the Second World War in Europe, where they were just afraid that families and countries, nationalities, would lead to another devastating war. Now, so therefore they started to promote, let's all work together, and the family itself is not necessarily the most important. There are other things that are important as well, but this pendulum has completely swung to the extreme other side, where complete common sense has gone out the window. And so I'm not sure how this resolves itself. I think actually what will happen, the pendulum starts to swing back, as we already see with the populist elements of society really pushing back, and maybe the electorate will wake up, and the populist wave will swoop in various. Trump was part of that. Milley was part of that. You see it in Europe, Italy. You've seen other examples, and maybe that will happen in Canada as well. I hope we can do a Canadian wave in that sense, and be part of that. Be as PPC, be part of the solution there. So I think Max is setting a good example of how this can be done, and let's keep on pushing with all of us and see where we wind up. So. It's a worthwhile project for our kids and grandkids, right?
Yeah, no, I that's why I'm invested, and I'm also running as a candidate, as you know.
Yeah, no, kudos to you.
Thanks. I just don't. I look at the Conservative Party. It's almost like they're extorting votes out of the voters. They're saying, listen, the only path to success is through us. And we're saying, yeah, but you don't have any principles. Like, you're just looking to the polling. And they go, yeah, but you can't get in, so give me your vote or else. It's like a hostage situation. Canadians have been taken hostage.
Well, some people would argue that the entire system is a Stockholm situation, right? So, learn to love your captor. That's what the system tries to tell us. But we free-minded individuals say, no, that's not good enough. We want something based on solid principles. That's. I think in that sense we can be seen, in my opinion, as a great hope for Canada too. We are the group of people that come together, independent thinkers with that like to blow this fresh air into the system. The Conservatives, they should, if they're smart, they should welcome this, but they're not. And I think, like I said, Randy Hillier has been eye opener for me. For them too, it's all Max talked about the milk cartel who prevented him from becoming a leader in the end, and Randy then talking about the corruption that goes on. Things get done because of somebody's paying somebody, and we want that. That's why politics is being used, and this is why people get so disgusted too with politics. It's all about what can they do for me? For my little thing? There's no community or common sense or the greater good is not a consideration there, and that's well, what can you say about that? Everybody, of course, everybody understands this being self-interested on a micro level for your family. Great, play within the rules, and that's all fine. Everybody needs to make their own living and their own support their own family, but at a higher level, these groups, they should be enlightened. We should be aspiring to be a great country. And this is one thing. Maybe we can talk about this for a sec, because we were talking about this yesterday in the Midway group. One thing that the PPC has to evolve out of is we cannot be or remain a protest movement. We can definitely be against what the Conservatives do and what they're not doing, and so forth and so on. But for us to mature, we need to get to a point that we formulate a belief that Canadians can rally around. Say, yes, I can see myself in that. I can see my kids and grandkids in that, and we are solidly with you. In the video that I posted on my Twitter account, I was talking about this issue, that I came to the realization after studying why are people not responding to facts and truth, and what is it that and this is mostly in the context of the whole vaccination debate and the measures related to that. And I come to the conclusion that people in politics, they they act based on belief. They don't act based on rational decisions or facts or truth. And so the belief, for example, that your party is the best, that's your belief, or that your leader is the greatest, or sometimes very simple things. And then, we can be disappointed in that. Why do people react like that? Well, that's the reason. So I think we as PPC need to formulate something around that. And we need to lay out a vision. What does it mean to be Canadian? What do we want future Canadians to be? And talk about that. And I think if we can start occupying that space with a very positive, upbeat message, then after having made the case that the establishment parties are corrupt, I think then we can start seeing serious changes. So that's one thing that I've been engaging around. Further explore that as well in my writings. I've been working on a book, but I think we have some maturing to do from a protest party, being people completely ticked off with how things are not and how the establishment party is messing up Canada and corrupting Canada and this and that, to what's our vision? And so there's still a lot of debate required there. I'm looking forward to that debate also this year, because as we prepare ourselves for the election, these discussions need to be had. So.
Yeah, I firmly believe that if the media was doing its job, or if we could get around the media and go to the people directly, the PPC message it's very, very appealing because it's common sense.
Yes. Yes. Well, we need to be careful that we do not let ourselves be described by others. In 2019, Warren Kinsella and his Daisy crew, because he was bought by some conservatives, was successful in smearing. Basically, that's what it comes down to, the party, and the judiciary ruled that we live in a free. Or we live in a democracy, or we live in a situation where you have free speech, so that's allowed. So that has serious, repercussions for how the debate is done. But we need to be smart about that. We do not need to let ourselves be baited in stupid labels. Oh, you're a Nazi. Or you're this, or you're that. We need to be very educated and smart to resist those things and hit it dead on. And actually our way out of that, in my opinion, is by painting a good vision and a good belief for the future. And then you can just laugh at people that come up with smear tactics like Warren Kinsella, because they're just paid operatives, right? Just part of the corruption, as I would call it.
I wanted to bring one last thing up. I've been getting into a lot of discussions on Twitter with the other side, the left, and it's really whether you believe in God or you believe in government. And the people on the left, they actually believe that the government should raise children. And the argument usually goes like this. First of all, the word parental rights does not appear anywhere in the Charter. And secondly, if there's one parent out there that might be in some way abusing their child, then there should be zero parental rights to begin with. So it's not just a strategic issue that we're facing. We're also facing like an educational, spiritual, cultural issue.
Yes, I agree with you 100%. Now, in those discussions, I would like people to refer themselves back to the Marxist utopia of the Soviet Union and see how it worked out there. And if you then look at the or China, you can talk about that as well. But and then you look at someone like Solzhenitsyn, one of my favorite philosophers, actually, who described why did all this happen and why did we have all this disaster overcome us. And there's there's this issue of believing state and believing in God. And he comes to the conclusion that it's because people lost connection to God. That's why this happened. Now, that's a very simple and a nice soundbite kind of easy conclusion. But yes, we shouldn't be afraid to talk about this. We shouldn't be afraid to talk about God. We shouldn't be afraid to talk about good and evil. If people want to deny that exists, you just have to study history. Democide, 250 million people died in the 20th century because of the various nefarious governments, and mostly they were well-meaning left-wing governments that were, we're going to build utopia on Earth. Well, that hasn't worked out anywhere that I can tell very well. So that's an easy argument, in my opinion, to make. And yeah, young people, because they have a heart, I guess, as Churchill would say, they want to dream and believe in a utopia, and they can be sometimes open to radical ideas, or, well, the world is makeable and we can really create this utopia. Well, okay, let's educate them and let's go through that and show them what happens if you disconnect people from God, and if you let the state take over. It's a recipe for total disaster. So now, yeah, that's an argument we should not be shy to make, even though in the political context it's often difficult to do, because then you're I think we need to steel our minds on our side a bit and not be afraid to be that people call us names. So be it, right? Like, okay, well, you stand up for what's good. Is that wrong? Now you're going to call me an idiot because of that? I find that's your loss. I don't understand that. No.
So I'm a product of the public education system and the urban centers. And what the left has done is really brilliant. They've taught an entire generation of young adults that God is just this fantasy fairy tale guy, sitting on a cloud somewhere, maybe throwing some lightning bolts. But like, to me, God is sort of a metaphor for universal truth, for observation of reality, like basically nature. So you have a man and a woman, they have a family.
Different expressions you can have that. Yeah. What is important, in my opinion, and that comes down to, and that is helpful in culture and community building, is that we realize that we're not, that's not just materialism that ruled. And I think if you start asking everybody, well, do you think there's something more to it than just what you see, your material, what are spiritual values, so to speak? Is there something bigger than what just keeps us busy or what feeds us, or is there something beyond us? I think a lot of people come to conclusion, yeah, there is something. Even if it's the issue of, yeah, I believe in a utopia. That's something that I can believe in because that provides a spiritual value. You show that people can be bound by common ideals, and if we anchor that to a higher ideal that is ultimately, steadfast and sits there for millennia, well, I think that can provide a good basis. Now, and however you want to interpret that, I'm a Christian too, background, the Mennonite, Calvinist persuasion, but I'm not a fundamentalist, and in that sense, I'm open-minded to people that interpret this question in their own way. And I definitely don't think that it's very useful at all to start dividing people amongst and create another identity politics situation among people through their faith. I think no, definitely not. So
good stuff. René, we're kind of we're approaching.
Yeah, well, great.
Do you want to leave the audience with a message of hope, or tell them how you, like, the vision you have for Canada, where you want to see your country go?
Yeah, I could do that. I actually put 7 points on paper of what I believe Canada is, a vision and belief statement. And I'd be interested to hear your feedback on that. If you say if I'm going in the right direction with that, I try to make it relatively appealing, broadly appealing as possible. I'm going to refine this further, but this is sort of a draft, so you get a bit of a glimpse of what's going on. 2, 4, 6, 8 points I have, so bear with me. A strong, free, and what is Canada, and what does it mean to be Canadian? A strong, free, and resourceful people who appeal to and believe in the goodness of each individual. 2, abundant resources, clean air and water, and places to build. There are almost 880,000 lakes in Canada, and the cottage has become a Canadian tradition for many families, and being in touch with nature is a second nature for many Canadians. The space that Canada has provided. 3. The space that Canada has provides room to grow and build, and provides room for entrepreneurs to be creative. This will preserve and create further wealth for Canada and for the next generations. 4. We are a nation of kind people who help each other in need when adversity and snowstorms hit, and we are a nation of peacemakers internationally because we know that only peacemakers will inherit the earth. 5. We resist tyranny and stand up for any individual's belief as long as it respects the old tried and true principles that we treat each other as we ourselves want to be treated, with respect, personal responsibility, and without unlawful coercion and violence. 5. We are a nation of immigrants who want all of us to play by the common rules of respect for others and their beliefs, as well as for nature and the environment. 6. We make decisions based on truth, science, and facts, and are realistic, common sense, and also stoic in the face of adversity. 7. We step into our power when needed to right a wrong and fight fascism and corruption, as our grandparents did, who helped defeat fascism in World War II, or as the truckers and Freedom Convoy supporters did when we were faced with medical fascism in Canada during the scamdemic, or as the farmers are doing when faced by globalist tyrants. We don't like to complain or focus on the negative, but we will not tolerate institutional corruption and lies. Well, anyways. It's a long answer to your question.
Let me sum that up. Property rights, individual sovereignty, personal responsibility, the supremacy of God, and limited government. That's what
Yes.
my takeaways.
Yeah. Well, I made it into a bit of a flowery discussion. But I do think it's worthwhile that we veer back into the realm of beliefs, and we need to formulate that. And whatever way here I did it one way, but there could be other ways where we do that and where we paint a picture. It's sort of like, okay, you live your dream again. Let's first make sure we understand what we're dreaming, right? So, and I think once we have this discussion, we'll find that there's many people like this that want this for our kids and our grandkids. So let's build on that, and then, okay, hopefully you build the Canada you want with the people that come along for that journey. I think at the moment people are, black-pilled often, disappointed, negative. That negativity doesn't go far, right? You can't live your dream when you don't have one, or when you have a black-pilled dream to work off. So, yeah, it's up to us to try to bring some purple wind into that equation and fresh air, and hopefully, stir people's good emotions and beliefs. So. Anyways, hopefully that's hopeful. I don't know.
No, it was very helpful.
All right, good.
There's a lot of points in your 8-point manifesto that I definitely agree with. So it's
broad enough, like it's general enough that shouldn't really upset anybody in a sense, right? And I try to get away. Really, I think we do need to get away from this identity politics, because that is devastating people, and it creates all sorts of useless debate to begin with. And so that was my biggest thing. And if you want to, the goodness of each individual, so important. Solzhenitsyn talks about this as well. That was the other part of his thinking. Apart from losing touch with God, he said that you couldn't even root out evil if you wanted to, because you will wind up killing part of yourself. So you have to root out evil by appealing to good, and you have to get the goodness in people activated. And that's our job. That's our job, I think, also as candidates, and get people along for that ride and for that dream. And so, yeah, that's what I hope we can do. Let's do it. Nice to meet you, Payman.
Nice to meet you too, René. Before we sign off, is there anywhere where the viewers can go to find out more about you or donate to your cause?
Yeah, actually, I don't know if you're aware of that, but the PPC will soon launch a full candidates page, so /candidates. I think you can already access it after our common peoplesparty.com of Canada.com/candidates. All the candidates there are being cataloged, and there are donation volunteer buttons there, and that's one way to do it. For my engagement as far as talking about things, you already saw me on Twitter. Yeah, that was my 4th account, by the way. I was pretty active during the censorship period and also censored. So this is my 4th account, and I like the Twitter engagement, although sometimes it's a bit rough and tumble, but people can find me there under the moniker Aafko de Vries. That's AAFKO de Vries, and I'm on Facebook and Instagram as well. You can find me under my regular name. So, but mostly on Twitter. That's where I engage political battles and battle of the mind. So. But yeah, I encourage people to have a look at there will be an announcement soon on the PPC website, anyways, to bring the broader candidates out in the open. So.
Well, Mr. De Vries, thank you very much for coming on, and best of luck to you in your campaign.
Same to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Bye.
Kramer.